Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for May the 15th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams, and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, it is your one-stop shop for the hottest gaming news you need to know. And today we got some very big news about just how much money people are spending on video games, or at least how much was spent in Q1 of 2020, because man, it looks like a lot of people are gaming during the quarantine. On top of that, speaking of quarantines and pandemics, Nintendo is expecting a large impact on game development due to the coronavirus. BioWare is certainly not putting a lot of people on the Anthem 2.0 team. Valve has opened up Half-Life Alyx, and we have more great deals for you this weekend if you are looking for something new to play on PC. And on top of that, a new piece of tech coming your way. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into today's top gaming news. First off, US spending on video games just hit a new quarterly record. $10.9 billion in the first quarter of 2020 alone was spent in gaming. American consumers spent more this past quarter on video games than they ever have before, to the tune of $10.9 billion, up 9% from the year before, according to industry analyst NPD Group via Bloomberg. The period covers only January to March, meaning spending in the current quarter ending June 30th might end up being just as high, if not higher. Obviously, the main event in the back third of this quarter was the coronavirus pandemic, which reached American shores at the end of January and has kept the public indoors since mid-March. According to NPD, game sales and in-game microtransactions made up $9.6 billion of that $10.9 billion figure. Top titles included Animal Crossing New Horizons, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Doom Eternal, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Fortnite, Grand Theft Auto 5, Minecraft, MLB The Show 20, and NBA 2K20, NPD reported. On the console market side of things, Nintendo was the biggest winner. The company's sales of the Switch offset purchasing declines for the other consoles. Hardware sales in total topped $770 million, and just speaking anecdotally, it is nearly impossible right now to find a Switch even if you want one, while few people are likely buying PlayStation or Xbox consoles with a new generation of devices due out this fall. While the pandemic has us all staying at home, it seems like a lot of people have decided to just game through it, myself included, the author says, and I would say I'm largely in the same boat. I'm also Netflixing through it as well. I finished 7 seasons of Mad Men in 2 months. However, U.S. video game spending hitting an all-time high is something that I think is natural as the industry continues to grow and as it becomes a more mainstream form of entertainment for a lot of people, especially in the current period. Because gaming has been growing in popularity by leaps and bounds, and speaking from experience, whenever I got a new job in December, I moved into a role where I am a social media and content writer, but I work for a tech firm, and generally we can talk about gaming at lunch, where before, in high school and college, and on top of that in my first workplace, it seemed to be somewhat of taboo. It was strange for somebody in their 20s or 30s to talk openly about the fact that they played video games. Now I tell people that I've been playing whatever game I've been playing, and we have a conversation about it, and I think that's something that is reflected on a wider scale. And so as that sentiment continues to grow and as video gaming becomes a more mainstream form of entertainment, I think you're going to see these exact sentiments repeated over and over again to drive gaming to new heights, even past what we have here. What I'm interested in are the metrics for this quarter. How did the coronavirus pandemic impact the sales of gaming hardware and software? And what is the split between physical and digital? I cannot wait for those numbers to come out in a couple of weeks, because it's certainly something that is going to reveal a lot about the changing habits of gamers during a pandemic. But speaking of changing habits from the pandemic, Nintendo is expecting a large impact to game development due to coronavirus. Nintendo recently announced that it expects game development to suffer from a large impact as a result of COVID-19. A recent report from GI.biz confirms that although the coronavirus's impact on Switch production has started to show signs of decrease, Nintendo still expects a variety of games currently in development to be met with delays. According to the report, Nintendo President Shuntaro Furukawa recently addressed the situation during a call to investors, specifically referring to the impact of the coronavirus and its impact on Switch production over the past 2 months. Quote, "As a result, we are not in a position to be able to produce the full quantity of units we actually want to produce," Furukawa said. That said, He continues, there are signs of gradual improvement, and so we anticipate that the impact of COVID-19 on production will subside to some degree by summer, and that the volume we'll be able to produce throughout the year will align with our sales forecast units for this fiscal year, end quote. Despite the fact that gradual improvement is visible in relation to Switch manufacturing, Furukawa also said, quote, since there are indeed big limitations on what can be done from home, we do think this will have a large impact on first-party titles. As a result, Furukawa believes that remote working could, quote, make it difficult to release titles as currently planned, end quote. However, the situation may improve as Nintendo adjusts the work-from-home schedule. Please be aware that the impact on game development in terms of both hardware and software may potentially increase as the amount of time spent working remotely increases, Furukawa said. Despite this, a new Paper Mario game called Paper Mario The Origami King is scheduled to launch for Nintendo Switch this July. We talked about that on yesterday's program. But this is something that I think should be said. This is something that needs to be addressed because I think that a lot of other companies and a lot of people in general are certainly writing off the COVID-19 pandemic as something that is on its way out the door instead of facing the reality of the fact that it has changed and shaped our world as we continue to live it and how we will live it over the course of the next 1 to 2 years minimally. And so whenever you are looking forward to fall releases, I think that a lot of AAA games, specifically first-party titles, and on top of that, those that have large swaths of people working from home that would normally be in an office, you are going to have a lot of impacts, and I think that we are going to be seeing more and more of these delays in July, August, and September as we ramp up towards October, November, and December when games traditionally come out. Now, the question is, how is this going to shape the next generation? What's going to happen with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X? And on top of that, could this put a damper on the Nintendo Switch hardware sales as well if these big AAA games aren't continuing to roll out month after month? Because Nintendo has been pretty frequently putting out some pretty big titles, the most recent of which is, of course, Animal Crossing New Horizons. But we will have to wait and see. This is a story that only time can tell. Now, speaking of development teams, BioWare only has 30 people, give or take, working on overhauling Anthem. Quote, this is going to be a longer process. BioWare and Electronic Arts are trying to fix Anthem. This stab at capturing some of that Destiny magic immediately fell flat in 2019 as player counts and general interest quickly dwindled. In February, just a few weeks before Anthem's one-year anniversary, BioWare revealed that it's overhauling the game in pursuit of a reinvention that will hopefully introduce a more motivating gameplay loop. It is encouraging that BioWare has not given up entirely, but Anthem's mulligan isn't in the all-hands-on-deck venture it might seem. In the interest of managing expectations, Anthem lead fixer Christian Daly posted an update where he mentions there are only 30-some people working on Anthem's new direction. Quote, we are a small team, about 30-ish earning our way forward as we set out to hit our first major milestone goals, Daly says. Spoiler, this is going to be a longer process, and yes, the team is small, but the whole point of this is to take our time and go back to the drawing board. And a small team gives us the agility a larger one can't afford. EA has not yet cut its losses, but it's certainly not doubling down on Anthem. Maybe it can be salvaged, maybe it can't, but regardless, it seems like EA is not willing to commit a buttload of resources, just kidding, it says boatload, but hey, you know what it means, to the overhaul, which, if we're being honest, is probably the prudent decision. Daly's humble team may be able to fix Anthem, but it sounds like we won't see the fruits of their labor for a long time. I wouldn't be surprised if we never saw Anthem 2.0 come out. I think that this is more of a PR move than anything, personally, because people are continually relentless. They are always going to be throwing Anthem under the bus because of the ruse that it kind of pulled on fans whenever the game launched, and it was just simply an uninspired piece of content. It just was not good. And so as time has gone on, Anthem has fallen out of the public favor, if it ever was in it to begin with. And so I think that as you move into the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X generation, let's assume that this game stays a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One game. Well, it's not going to get much life there. So if they then port it to the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and re-release it as Anthem 2.0, it had better be a very good piece of content. It had better have a very motivating gameplay loop. It had better really entice people, because otherwise it's just going to again fall flat and be a bloated mess on the next generation. And then you have to face the issue of actually getting people on board. That presents an even larger challenge. But hey, if you are interested in Anthem 2.0 news, there you have it. Looks like you're not going to be hearing anything for a very long time. But moving on, Valve has opened Half-Life Alyx level editing tools up to the community. Steam Workshop support will enable all kinds of modifications in VR. The debut of Half-Life Alyx has already added more than 1 million new VR users to Steam, and now comes the next step, mods. The game's latest update brings beta support for the Steam Workshop, so users can add their own levels, textures, animations, and more, as well as browse the content produced by others. This initial release includes tools like Source Filmmaker and Hammer, the latest Source 2 level editor. So if you think you can make experiences that rival or even best what Valve's developers were able to do, then everything you need should be right there. Or if you just want to create a level that's based on your own house, check out the documentation first so you can be in the same room in VR that you're already inside in real life, and I guess you can do that. One of the first mods in the workshop is the sample created by the team to show how the tools work. Not all of the changes are for mods, however, as it's also added a Linux native version of the game that uses the Vulkan API and optional support for Vulkan on Windows if that leads to better performance on your PC. Updates to spectator mode let viewers adjust the zoom level, run it in full screen, and toggle a view of the player's HUD. Of course, heads-up display on and off. This is a very cool piece of news because of the fact that Half-Life Alyx is by all means the most robust set of tools that is available in terms of mods in the world of virtual reality. That's something that is going to bring a ton of value to the modding community and really push what's possible in the world of VR, because if you ever want to see what your game is truly capable of or what your engine can do, let the community do something with it. They are the ones that are passionate about the project, even more so than the developers sometimes, and you can really create something that is unique and new and fresh and that can't be made from a team with a definitive goal from the time they set out. If you give a group of fans with a vision the tools to create, they certainly will. If you give an artist a paintbrush, they will make something. And in the same way, these tools from the Valve team are certainly going to come in handy. So I'm excited to see the videos of what people make, but as somebody who has not gotten on board with the VR world yet, I'm more of an onlooker than a participator. But Konami's delayed TurboGrafx 16 Mini arrives in the US on May 22nd. That's way sooner than I thought. That's just 1 week away. The console was initially supposed to launch in March. After missing its initial March 19th release date, Konami's TurboGrafx 16 Mini will finally make its way to North America on May 22nd. When it becomes available next Friday, you can pick it up for $100. At the start of March, Konami delayed the TurboGrafx 16 Mini's US and Canadian launch due to COVID-19, and at the time, the company said the outbreak had caused an unavoidable suspension at the facility in China where it was manufacturing the device. There is still no release date for the Core Graphics Mini, the console's European variant. However, Konami said it's keeping an eye on the situation. The TurboGrafx 16 Mini will ship with a single full-sized wired replica controller that connects through USB, as well as more than 50 preloaded games from the 16-bit era. Some of the gems in the collection include Bonk's Revenge, R-Type, and Ys Book 1 and 2. If you want to play with a wireless controller, 8BitDo has one coming out on May the 20th. After the TurboGrafx 16 Mini's delay, you may be wondering if the pandemic will affect the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and yet again, Microsoft and Sony have confirmed that is not currently the case. So, if you want to pick up the TurboGrafx 16 Mini coming out again next Friday, May 22nd for $100, this is one that is going to be driven entirely by the fans' sense of nostalgia. As somebody who did not play or own a TurboGrafx 16 growing up, this is not really for me. But if you want something that is driven by the power of the 90s, sitting next to your NES Mini and your SNES Mini, or I believe they're called Classics depending on where you're from, you now have the opportunity to do so. And let's not forget the PlayStation Classic, the little piece of hardware that never really got the same amount of love because the console's software lineup was simply lackluster. But speaking of a lineup that is not lackluster, Epic Games Store's Mega Sale has gone live with deals on Control, Borderlands 3, and more, and you can get a $10 coupon yet again. The Epic Games Store kicked off a 4-week sale on Thursday, offering discounts of up to 75% off dozens of PC games, and of course, giving away Rockstar Games' Grand Theft Auto 5. Epic's Mega Sale has discounts on PC games like Control, Borderlands 3, Metro Exodus, Shenmue 3, and Anno 1800, all of which are 50% off during the sale. The full list of games and other various discounts is available on Epic's website, but some of the more substantial discounts apply to older games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt at 70% off, Assassin's Creed Odyssey at 67% off, and Alan Wake at 90% off. Sweetening the deal is a $10 coupon that can be earned by signing into your Epic Games account, and it can be used on eligible games or add-ons priced at $14.99 or above. And for any eligible purchase of $14.99 or more on the Epic Games Store, Epic will give buyers another $10 coupon for their next purchase. More details are available on Epic's FAQ. If you're just here for the free games, you can grab GTA 5 now that Epic servers have stabilized, and additional free games will be released every Thursday through June the 11th. And of course, I try and keep you guys up to date as to what those big freebies are. I think the biggest piece of news here is that they give you a $10 coupon to begin with, which you can spend on something that is $15 or more, but something that's $15. Then when you finish that transaction, you get another coupon for $10. Do you understand how powerful that is? You can make so much of a dent in your backlog, and by dent I mean a giant pile of new games impacting your backlog, hitting it like a dump truck. And so, hey, if you are a fan of the Epic Games Store, which I know remains controversial, you should dive in and give some of these games a look. Would highly recommend at least seeing what they've got, because these are really, really good deals. But that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed today's show, drop me a like down below and let me know what stories caught your eye. But of course, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. Of course, I'll be back on Sunday for an episode of The Drop, and the show resumes on Monday with the hottest gaming news of the day. But until tomorrow, you guys have a good one. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.